ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Verse 231. साक्षिसत्यत्वमत्यस्य स्वेनोपेतेव पुस्त्रये तत्सर्वं वास्तवं स्वस्य स्वरूपमिति मन्यते. So Vidyaranya has come to this final part of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad mantra 4.4.12. Atmanam chit vijaniya tayamasmiti purushah kimichan kasya kamaya shariramanussanjvaret. The first line indicates the nature of this knowledge, Atmajnanam. What is this Atmajnanam? So that has been discussed. And the second line of this mantra gives a Jnanaphalam, describes a Jnanaphalam. And in that we discussed Kimichan Kasya Kamaya. Kimichan negates the very Bhogyam, and Kasya Kamaya so negates the Bhokta. So Bhokta and Bhogyam both are negated. Negative means they are basically mithya. Negated means they are experiencer. Experiencer cannot be negated as such, but experiencer is not the reality of the self. And now he has come to this shariram anusanjvaret, etc. And that is indicating here as a shoka nivrutti, freedom from the sorrow. And here it has been anusanjvarit. So person is, the shoka is indicated by the word anujvara. So person is free from this anujvara. Person is free from the shoka means person is free from the anujvara. And Vidyaranya has explained this word jvara. And that is jvara is nothing but a respective problem of a respective body. So three bodies have the respective problems that has been discussed. And verse 224 in which he mentioned sthula sharira jvara problems. And then in verse 225, of course, sukshma sharira jvara. And verse 226 indicates a karana sharira jvara. And then he made certain general remarks also about the jvara, that this one can never be free from the jvara at the level of the body. And so that is he indicated. Then he defined what is anujvara because of identification of the self with the three bodies, and then the identification with the three types of jvaras also. The person has a notion that I am suffering. I have a jvara, means I am suffering. So one can be free from this anujvara, that is called anujvara. So because the jvara is there, and in keeping with the jvara, by identifying with the jvara, while the person is having this notion that I am having this anujvara, means I am having this problem, suffering. So, Sharira Jvaram Anu. So Vedanta defines Anujvara as a samsara. So body does not have any samsara. Body has a jvara. And we saw last time, the body, since it is made up of a karma, we discussed, right, this from Brahman, that is, it has a twofold power, and through the Vikshepa Shakti of the Brahman, the whole names and forms have been manifest. When they were unmanifest, that is Maya. Unmanifestation to manifestation is due to that, the power. That's how Maya is called Shakti. And one of the Shakti is this Vikshepa Shakti. So in which the unmanifest names and forms will become manifest. Unmanifest name and form, they are there in Brahman. It's a non-separate. So Maya is non-separate, unmanifest names and forms are non-separate. And when they manifest, we call, that is the power of the Maya, of course, which is called Vikshepa Shakti. And what is the factor? Why unmanifest becomes manifest? Because it is karma, samashti karma, jiva samashti karma. Of course, due to vyashti karmas also, they get a particular type of body, etc. Subtle body, gross body, etc. And so therefore, since they are made up of karma, they all the time will have a jvara. Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira. And Karana Sharira has his own jvara in terms of Vasana, Ajnanam, etc. And Sanchita, whole lot is there. So in a potential condition also, the jvara is there in the Karana Sharira. Anyway, and so he nicely made out this point that there is no parihara for this, to make the body free from the jvara. But one can definitely become free from this suffering. One can definitely become free from the anujvara by not identifying with the three bodies, etc., and not identifying with the three jvaras. And well, so that's a second point. And third point, well, he said, very beautifully said, that the Chidabhasa itself also does not have any jvara. So the three types of jvaras are there, belong to three types of bodies. But the Chidabhasa, which is a Dampati, Chidabhasa, which is all the time associated with the three bodies, they are the medium. And therefore, Chidabhasa will be all the time there with these three bodies. There is no Chidabhasa other than, independent of the bodies. And there are no bodies independent of Chidabhasa. Only body, no Chidabhasa. That won't be the case. That will never be the case, except Videhi Mukti of a Jnani. And therefore, in general, we should say it is not, it is all the time. That's how it is a Dampati, it's a couple. All the time they go together. Anyway, but the Chidabhasa, even though it is all the time associated with the three bodies, the jvaras of the three bodies appear in the Chidabhasa, but that is not the case, that the Chidabhasa has any kind of a jvara. And well, Chidabhasa does not have any special jvara also. Otherwise, we will have to count the fourth type of jvara. Well, that is not there. That is also, he said, that Chidabhasa, which is avatar of this Chaitanyam, the Sakshi, well, does not have any jvara. Chidabhase api prakasha eka svabhatvam eva drishtam. Well, it is just a prakasha. And any prakasha, whenever it is reflected in any medium, will have no problem of the medium. It appears, but it doesn't. Well, this is a bhautika prakasha. It is not a bhautika prakasha. Well, it is alaukika prakasha, abhautika prakasha, we can say, if you want to say like that. And therefore, Chidabhase api prakasha eka svabhatam eva drashtam na chaitarat. Chidabhasa has no other nature other than this light. Right? You may call it reflection, but it is ultimately a light. Anyway, it doesn't have a legs and hands and anything which is a product of a jvara. Well, definitely not. Therefore, well, it is also free from jvara. Then if Chidabhasa is free from jvara, then where is the question of Sakshi? Where is the question of Sakshi? Sakshi is free from suffering. Jvaraha Chidabhase pi asambhavyaha. And therefore, well, these jvaras, these sufferings, are the problems. Well, they are not there in this Chidabhasa, then there is a question of a Sakshinika Katha. What to talk of a Sakshi? This is a Kaimutika Nyaya, I told you. And then in verse 231, well, he said, a further mischief occurs also. This is all due to identification that we have seen. So, even here, in verse 230, he has mentioned about that Jvaraha Chidabhase Pya Sambhavyaha Sakshinika Katha. And even though this is the case, the Chidabhasa does not have a Jvara, and therefore there is no question of a Sakshi also should have any kind of a problem. Still, evam api means still, ekata mene, well, since Chidabhasa identified with these three types of bodies, Sharir Trayam, so then Chidabhasa claims itself these three bodies. And Chidabhasa does not claim that basically I am Chit, I am Sakshi. Chidabhasa could have gone in either of the direction, but well, it did not go towards the Chit, and Chidabhasa, where it manifests in that medium itself, it says that is my nature. And therefore the body also, it says I am the body, I am the mind, I am senses. Chidabhasa claims. And so Jvara belongs to the body also says, well, that I belong to. I mean, I am having this kind of suffering. Anyway, so and why this problem? This Avarana Shakti of Maya, I discussed last time. So Avarana Shakti of Maya definitely pervades all these jivas which are manifest with their bodies. And so, well, and Parmeshwara is free from that, but well, because Vikshepa Shakti, of course, Maya belongs to Brahman, but then once Vikshepa Shakti operates and then the world is created, that Brahman is called Karanam, because through Maya only it manifests as, and the Avarana Shakti, well, veils the Jiva, basically. And so Jiva doesn't know that it is Brahman, basically. And Jiva also doesn't know what is this Jagat. It says Jiva does not know himself. Jiva doesn't know the Jagat. Means Jagat as a, Jiva does not know Jagat also as Brahman. Both Jiva and Jagat both are just one Brahman. That's the reality. That is the substance. Just name and form is an appearance. Only name and form only has come through the Maya. You may be even a gross body such as, very gross and very tangible. But any tangible, pot is a tangible thing, but pot is never a substance. Pot is not a substance. Substance is only clay. So whatever, three things are there, because of which you see the thing as very tangible. Because you experience. Name and form is available for experience. That's one of the reasons to understand it to take it as a real. And name and form is something with which you transact, and that you take it as a real. Anything which you transact with, how will you say? How can I say, Swamiji, it is mithya? I experience. How can I say it is mithya? And the third thing is utility. What is utility? What is having certain usage? You will not say that it is mithya. But this name and form has these three things. Available for experiences, available for transaction, available for usage. That's it. And therefore it may be a body or it may be a world. Everything is through the Vikshepa Shakti of the Maya. The substance is Brahman. Maya is non-separate from Brahman, and therefore what is unmanifest, definitely when it manifests, well, definitely that the substance will be, like I gave you the example, the ornament which is unmanifest in the gold, when it manifests, it may be a ring or anything. The substance, even in the manifest condition, although substance will be the gold only. So here also the substance is Satchit only. That is the substance. And what is other than that, with which you transact, with which you which you experience, and which has a usage, is just name and form. It's an incidental attribute to the substance. It is a non-substantial thing. The entire world, well, which is nothing other than this, Maya, which manifested in form of this universe, names and forms, they are not real. But due to these three factors, experience, transaction, and usage, you these are the three factors. Well, no one would deny. What you experience, you will never say it is mithya. What you transact with, you never say it is mithya. What you use, you never say it is mithya. In fact, that is the criteria for mithya. That's a criteria for mithya, in fact. Because Atma is something which is not available, which is not an object of experience. Atma is something which is not available for transaction. And Atma is something which is no way has a certain empirical usage also. And therefore, Atma is the reality, is the substance. And what is available for experience, transaction, usage is a mithya, is an incidental name and form to the substance. So from Brahman only everything appears. Brahman is a substance right now, even in this, with these names and forms. And the world is mithya. But Bhag, this Chidabhasa which manifests in any name and form, the Karana, then these three bodies. Well, not knowing oneself that I am basically a consciousness, Sakshi Chaitanyam, he doesn't know. And if one doesn't know that I am Sakshi Chaitanyam, still one has to conclude about oneself. There is no way out. One has to conclude. There is no other go. Because it is self-conscious. And consciousness being self-evident also. And there is self-ignorance. So one has to conclude. But that conclusion will be the wrong conclusion. The wrong conclusion is, I am three bodies. And I am having three types of jwaras. This is called samsara. This is called samsara. That is called anujvara here. And well, the person who knows atmanam vijaniyat, etc., one who knows katham shariram anusanjvaret, well, how can this person will have a anujvara? Means he become free from this samsara. And so in verse 231 it is said that what is happening is that basically the consciousness, when it manifests in these three bodies, mediums, well, then it identifies with the three bodies, it takes the three bodies as oneself and claim the three types of jwara also of oneself. And but how come Swamiji, these bodies, even though they are mithya, they are apparent, incidental, attribute, etc., how come they are taken as a real? Because basically the consciousness is a reality. The reality as though is plucked from the Sakshi and given to this three bodies and also to oneself, this Chidabhasa. Chidabhasa does this job. So Chidabhasa basically, or Ahankara you can say, while saying that Ahankara basically pluck the reality from the consciousness and gives it to the body. So the Chidabhasa thinks that the body is real and I am body, etc. also. And these three bodies are superimposed upon oneself. Identify with that. So this is what he said here. Sakshi Satyatvam Adhyasya. So Sakshi Satyatvam Adhyasya. Reality of the Sakshi is transferred. Transferred to what? Vapustraye is transferred to this Shariratrayam. Also includes Jvaratrayam you can say. Reality of the Sakshi is transferred to these three bodies and three types of jwaras. And what type of a Sharitrayam? Svena upete vapustrai. The three bodies which are endowed with the Chidabhasa. I have told you, we need not talk about it, but he clarifies. When you say Chidabhasa, already mediums are there. And when you say mediums, bodies, the Chidabhasa is there. You should not neglect it. They may mention, they may not mention. And most of the time they will not mention. Because there is no Chidabhasa without medium. That cannot be. And therefore, so Vapustre, Svena Upete Vapustre. Upete, endowed with Svena, endowed with the Chidabhasa. Because Chidabhasa is doing the job. So, Sakshi Satyatvam Adhyasya, Svena Upete Vapustre. Well, the reality of the Sakshi is transferred to this Shariratram, which are endowed with oneself, means the Chidabhasa. And then Tat Sarvam Vastavam Manyate. And then, all the three bodies are taken and considered as absolutely real. And also, Swasya Swarupam Manyate. Well, and this is considered as my real nature, means these three bodies are my real nature. I am human body. Well, I am of the nature of the human body. I am of the nature of the mind. I am of the nature of this. That's what we say also. Not only that, the jvaras which belong to the mind also, they say that is my nature. Well, Swamiji, I am very angry person, he says. Or I am having a lot of problems at the level of mind. So he says I am having. So he feels that that is his nature. So swasya swarupam manyate. So this is considered the jvaras of the three bodies, or the three bodies as such considers as one's own self. Chidabhasa does this job. Anyway, and then, well, he this is called anujjara, this is called samsara. And he says, I am suffering. Neither bodies has a samsara, neither atma has a samsara. Well, this Chidabhasa does this job because not knowing that I am Chit, Sakshi. And so, a disease in a body is not a samsara. Vedanta never promises any solution for that. Once Anuchvara comes, then you say, well, I am a samsari, etc. And when it goes, when Anujvara goes, well, I'll never claim that I am sufferer, etc. Then Vyavara will be there, that we discussed. That, what is created from the Vikshepa Shakti, well, which is endowed with this Chidabhasa, become conscious, and that conscious entity, as I mentioned, I'm reminding you that in this individual, the I, which has three types of seers, out of which the two are created by the Vikshepa Shakti, one is mind and the other is senses and the body, of course. Well, they then do the transaction, empirical transaction, all. And therefore that is mithya, because created through Maya, Vikshepa Shakti, etc. So they are mithya. So here in this individual I, well, these two, the karta, bhokta, you can say, or a seer, hearer, etc., whatever. So all these they continue. They will continue because they are born of karma. And ultimately bodies are, Chidabhasa also will continue, bodies continue. And therefore this kartrutvam, bhoktrutam, etc. all continue. But this person has understood, I am not Chidabhasa, but I am Chit. I am not Ahankara, but I am Sakshi. The one who has done Sakshi, Ahankara, Viveka, he says Ahankara keep continuing its own karma, etc. When you say Chidabhasa, the body is included. Ahankara means the bodies are included. And so this kartrutvam, bhoktrutam, which is an empirical reality, will continue till the prarabdha is over, the karma is over. It will, but he knows in this I, which is a composite entity, two are mithya. This Chidabhasa and these three bodies or two bodies, whatever you say, well, mithya. Whereas I am Sakshi, that is the only reality, because that cannot be negated. Without Sakshi, where is a question of an Ahankara? Where is a question of Ahankara? Very Aham Vritti arises, well, in the mind, well, because the mind is conscious. Whenever anyone says Aham, definitely it is conscious. And Sakshi cannot say Aham. Neither mind which is inert cannot say Aham. Therefore, the mind which is conscious says Aham. That's called Ahankara. And therefore, and that can, but Swamiji, but the mind and consciousness cannot combine also. That's true, very true. It's simply a conceptual. Ahankara is a concept, is not a reality. You cannot point out that Ahankara is really a mixture. There is no mixture. There cannot be a mixture of a real and unreal. Two real things can mix together. Two unreal things also can mix together. But there is no mixture of a real unreal. And therefore it's simply Ahankara is a conceptual thing. It's at the level of concept. That's how we are not able to pinpoint what is Ahankara really. Chit Jad Granthi we say also. But that is just a concept. Anyway, this is how the life is actually. Anyway, so this is regarding Anujvara, he has said. Now in verse 232. Etasmin bhranti kaleyam sharireshu jvaratsvatha swayameva jvaramiti manyate hi kutumbivat. So etasmin bhranti kale means as long as this intellect has this type of problem which we discussed, anujvara, etc. And so this problem belongs to intellect only. Intellect does all this mischief. That is why intellect is very important for a human being. Even if his gross body may be fragile, but this should not be fragile because all issues, it's a cognitive issue, and definitely it belongs to intellect only. Intellect does this mischief of creating all this kind of confusions. So even though we say spiritual problem or any problem, well, ultimately we have to connect it to the intellect. And therefore knowledge also, we always say, the ashraya of the locus of the knowledge also is intellect. Also, of course, the sadhanam for gaining knowledge also, especially anumanam, etc., in which the intellect is involved. So intellect is really amazing thing, which is a means for gaining knowledge, which is also a locus for knowledge. All other things are means of knowledge, like your senses, etc., are means of knowledge. They are not locus. They are not loci, or whatever, loci, L-O-C-I-I or what. So, of the knowledge. But intellect is something which is a locus of knowledge. That is where the knowledge takes place. And in a certain type of knowledge, especially when you are doing reasoning, etc., when you are doing some inference, etc., intellect is involved as a means. And because mind we consider as a seat of emotions, etc. So intellect basically function as a means of knowledge also. It's a very amazing thing. Anyway, so that's how knowledge takes place. Even this knowledge, but self-knowledge also takes place in intellect. So we generally, that's how Pujya Swamiji used to tell that we should never say intellectual knowledge. Because knowledge always takes place in a intellect. And the confusion lies there. And therefore, then the confusion is born of ignorance also. And therefore, the knowledge definitely, which occurs in the intellect, removes the wrong notions and along with the ignorance also. So anyway, ayam chidabhasaha sharireshu jvaratsu satsu. This is a sati saptami, locative absolute. When these bodies, ayam chidabhasa, this chidabhasa, when it goes through the varieties of the jvaras through these bodies, swayameva jvarami, this chidabhasa says, swayameva jvarami, I am going through the jvara. Chidabhasa does not have any jvara, right? We have seen also. And but it says, because shariyesu jvaratsu satsu, it has identified, it should not, but it has identified with the three bodies, because that is where it is, and therefore identifying with the three bodies, they are the medium. While it says, swayameva jvarami, I go through this suffering. So chidabhasa, even though it doesn't have any jvara, it says, I am go through the jvara. Iti manyate, it considers like that. And there, Vidyaranya gives an example, kutumbivat, like a typical grihastha, family problem, says my problem. That's what it is. That is how they say. Worrying grihastha is taken as a caring grihastha, which is not a reality. Worrying grihastha is taken as a loving grihastha. And worrying grihastha, is considered as a very responsible grihastha. All these three are not true. All the three are not true. Simply, wife has got a fever and this fellow cancels the class. Why you were not there on Monday? Well, my wife had a fever. That's it. Problems belongs to somewhere else, assumes on oneself. That's how the Chidabhasa is a kutumbi. Chidabhasa is also a kutumbi. So he says kutumbivat. Worry and care has no connection. Worry is possible without care. Care is possible without worry. But this is how people talk. If someone is worrying, he says, see, what a loving person. He's worrying about his wife. So he says, he's a loving husband because he's worrying. That's not true. Worry is possible without care. Care is possible without worry. Worry is possible without responsibility. Only worry. His responsibility is to worry, nothing else. The fellow can is really responsible, he does a lot of things, but he doesn't worry. That's possible. Worry without love, and love is possible without worry. All the things are possible. There is no, our vyapti. Yatra yatra vari, tatra tatra love. That's not true. Yatra yatra vari, tatra tatra care. No. Yatra yatra vari, tatra tatra responsibility. Not a single one is true. All these things are independent of each other. And that is what is required. But our Chidabhasa is a kutumbi. Basically, the jvaras, the issues belong to the body, and which will be there all the time because of the karmas. Mind will have its own issue, senses have its own issue, the body will have its own issue throughout the life. In fact, he gave the example that just as the cloth cannot be separated from the tantu, right, thread, same way the body cannot be separated from jara. It will be all the time there. But the Chidabhasa being there, even though itself is free from any problem, it doesn't have any 103 degree Fahrenheit temperature, but it's still the somewhere else, the fever, jvara, it says that belongs to me. It's an amazing thing. I am amazed by this Vidyaranya's statement that the Chidabhasa itself has no problem, and that's very true. There is no problem which really speaking the Chidabhasa has, because it's of nature of light. Swasya prakasha eka svabhatvam. Anyway, so this, he is a householder. I mean, he gives an example of an householder for this Chidabhasa. So a householder with the worry becomes a house help, or we should say that. Anyway, 233. Putradareshu tapyatsu tapamiti vrutha yatha manyate purushastadvat abhasopyabhimanyate. He describes what does this kutumbi do. Putradareshu tapyatsu satsu. So putradareshu, putradara, etc. Pautra, we should consider all this. Tapyatsu, when they go through the pain. When these people, the spouse or other people, when they go through the pain, well, aham tapami. And as you get old, the family is extended further and further. And therefore, some problem will be somewhere, it will be there in a large family. And he identifies with everywhere. And therefore, aham tapami, he all the time he concludes, I am suffering. Iti vrutha manyate. He vrutha, baselessly. This kutumbi, vrutha manyate, baselessly feels that he has problems. And that's what he asked here. How can somebody's problem become your problem? What is the wire by which somebody's problem gets transferred here? Except in the mind. There is someone's problem cannot become your problem unless you think that you are connected to that person and you will have a problem. Anyway, this is example. Yatha. Yatha means just as, relative pronoun. Tadvat, so too. Instead of tatha, he says tadvat. So too. Purushaha manyate. This samsari, our kutumbi. Purusha means this, in example it is kutumbi, but here Purushaha means this person, the jiva, the Chidabhasa, the ahankara. What is the difference between ahankara and Chidabhasa? No difference. What is the difference between ahankara and jiva? There is no difference. What is the difference between jiva and Chidabhasa? There is no difference. There is no difference. There is no difference. Really? When consciousness manifests in the buddhi, well, buddhi says aham, and that aham is definitely limited, because pervading the buddhi only means pervading a limited thing, and therefore that consciousness, which is a limited consciousness, and of course it is manifestation in the buddhi, we can call reflected consciousness called Chidabhasa, and buddhi says aham, therefore we call ahankara, etc. Same thing, or you can call jiva also. So Purushaha manyate, this person believes, abhasaha abhimanyate. Tadvat means so too. Abhasaha api abhimanyate. Chidabhasa identifies with this shariratrayam, jvaratrayam, etc. Verse 234. So Purusha, well, it goes in the example, and here Chidabhasa is in our case. Because I said something, so you may feel little confusion. But Purusha Manyate goes with the example. So Putrareshu Tapyatsu Tapami iti Vrutha Purusha Manyate. Tadvat, well, Chidabhasa api abhimanyate. Verse 234. Vivichya bhranti mujjitva swamapya ganayan sada chintayan sakshinam kasmat shariram anusanjvaret. So, well, that's okay. You have discussed so much about this problem, but then how does a person resolve this samsara? Well, it is presented in a very capsule form. Well, we can solve this problem by just changing the mindset. Need not change any other thing. One need not change anything, including vastram. Right? One need not change any name. One need not change any profession. One need not change name, fame, and nothing. Nothing you should change. Change just mindset. That's called Sankhya Buddhi. Lokesmin dvida nishtha pura prokta mayanaga jnana yogena sankhyana karma yogena yogina. Vivichya. First sort out these three components. What is these three components? What are you talking? I have already said, that's how I told first. When you say I, it's always a mixture. Either you say I am samsari or either you say I am Brahman. It will be a mixture. To say I, Brahman never says I. Body never says I. Mind never says I. Understand this? So it's a mixture. I is a mixture. And I have already told you, and that is mixture of Atma and Atma only. Ahankara, which is a Chit Jadaganti, only says, and therefore it's a mixture. So I it has three components. The individual, which says I, which utters the word I, well, has three components. One is a Sakshi, of course. All-pervading consciousness is right there. And the second is the Chidabhasa. And when you say Chidabhasa, you have to count the third one, that is reflecting medium, the three bodies. And so it's I is always a mixture. And out of this, what is created by the Vikshepa Shakti of the Maya is already automatically Mithya. It's just a name and form. It's an apparent. And that is mind is Mithya, Buddhi is Mithya. Chidabhasa is Mithya. Gross body is Mithya. So reflecting medium and the reflected consciousness, both are Mithya, naturally. Then what is reality in this mixture is just a Sakshi. That is called Vivichya, means Ahankara Sakshi Viveka. Ahankara definitely includes the bodies as well as Chidabhasa is Mithya. They are all names and forms. But the Sakshi, which is the substance, that is Brahman. So in every body, well, the reality is right there. Everything is non-separate from Brahman. In a given name and form part, which has come from the substance, right, which is there unmanifest in the substance called clay, when it manifests, every particle is the clay, ultimately. Name and form is just an incidental attribute to the clay. Same way here, if they're gross body or a subtle body or a Chidabhasa, whatever you say, everything is non-separate from the Sakshi. It's not that Sakshi is, getting reflected in the medium which is away from that. We give the example of sun and all that, but it has its own limitation. It has its own limitation. The reflection of the sun will be there on the earth, somewhere in some water or a mirror, and the sun is quite away. And so we also feel Sakshi somewhere away and then gets reflected in this medium Buddhi, etc., or the bodies. Well, it is not. It is all pervading. So, and anything is non-separate from the consciousness, Sakshi. Therefore, it just arises, manifest from the Sakshi. Well, that Maya which is unmanifested is non-separate from Brahman. So it arises. And well, it arises, the existence of that and the illumination of that is due to Sakshi alone. And therefore, Chidabhasa or the three bodies, well, their substance is Satchit, nothing else. And therefore, they are Mithya. So in I, which is a mixture of this Sakshi plus Chidabhasa plus the three bodies, well, in that these two are Mithya. And I am the Sakshi is. And therefore, there is no others, I mean, other than doing a Viveka, other than doing this discriminative uh, analysis, there is no way out because they remain non-separate. So you cannot physically separate. So vivicha, that's how they have used the word vivicha, viveka. So sort out these three components which is there in the word I or the I, the individual. So and the other two are mithya, means we have to throw nothing. You can't throw anything, but don't give over importance. They will be there. They will be there. Chidabhasa will be there as long as body will be there. Body will be there as long as karma will be there. So they will be there. You understand they are mithya. Badhitam, ahankara badhitam, become. And so it doesn't deserve over importance. Under the spell of ignorance, they were important. They were considered real. The reality has been borrowed from the Sakshi and has been imparted into the three bodies as well as to the Chidabhasa. Anyway, so Shariyatrayam can never be free from Jvara, but let's not, they don't deserve over importance. And their deficiency, etc., well, we cannot take it as our deficiencies, our issues. So this is how, so this is Bhranti Mujjitva, Ujja Dhatu is there. So to throw away, Bhranti Mujjitva, throw away this Bhranti, see clearly, throw away this Bhranti. There is no really a conscious mind, etc. It's all concept. You are Sakshi. There is nothing other than you. You are all pervading Sakshi. All these are just names and forms. Don't think that there is really a mind and there is really I, the Sakshi, and I have dived into the mind and then I have really manifested into the mind. All this is simply a verbal thing to explain how the mind is conscious and how the body is sentient and all that. We give you some model. Don't go into all this. Ultimately, by understanding the model, you realize that there is one whole, which is Satchit. There is nothing other than that. Everything appears and disappears. When it appears, well, it doesn't take away anything from Satchit. When it dissolves, it doesn't subtract anything in the Satchit. When you say pot is, well, consciousness is. If you say pot is gone, what happens to consciousness? There's nothing happens to consciousness. Still consciousness is. Satchit is. So no subtraction is possible in Satchit, no addition is possible in Satchit. Satchit is one whole. It's just one whole. There is nothing other than that. And therefore, other than that, this conscious, I mean the body, mind, sense complex, and in that manifestation and all that diving, the Parmeshwara dives into that and is all to explain at the empirical level. It is just to explain certain experiences which are empirical, nothing more than that. So just to give up this Bhranti. Bhranti Mujjitva, throwing away this Bhranti, that I am a samsari, well, I have three sorts of jvaras, three types of problems. I have to solve problems. Swamapi aganayan, ignoring even Swam. Swam means ignoring even Chidabhasa. Chidabhasa has to ignore that I am Chidabhasa. Well, I am Chit. Where is Chidabhasa without Chit? Sakshi. So ignoring even Chidabhasa because it's a functional factor. I mean, no importance. So, and Chidabhasa is basically understands that I am in reality I am a Sakshi. So Swamapi aganayan. It is the Chidabhasa also is a bit here. It has lost over importance. Sada sakshinam chintayan. Well, sada sakshinam chintayan. Think that you always think that I am a sakshi. Everything is non-separate from me. Either a body, either Chidabhasa. Everything is non-separate from me. They are all incidental attributes of me. They appear and disappear in me. Right? That is what the Kavilya Upanishad also says. So anyway, this is called Anujvara Nivrutti. So because Tasmat Shariram anusanjvaret, how this person, once he does this viveka, ahankara sakshi viveka, well, how can he still be subject to the afflictions or problems pertaining to the bodies? Bodies will have a problem. Body does not have a samsara. And I, the Chidabhasa, has no samsara, basically, or Sakshi has no samsara. Body is not free from samsara. I mean, body is not free from jvara, and I am all the time free from samsara. I am free from jvara. 235. Ayathavasthu sarpadi jnanam hetuh palayane rajjujnane hi didvastau kritamapyanushochati. And now Vidyaranya says, once this anujvara is removed, thereafter no question of doing any sadhana for a dukkha prapti or a sukha prapti, dukkha nivrutti or a sukha prapti. So as long as this I and mine abhimana is there, dukkha nivrutti is a goal. Because of these jvaras, identified with the jvaras, there was a dukkham. Now there is no more. I don't have a dukkham. That is the solution ultimately. I do not have any dukkham. And I do not have to work for sukham also. Because I am whole. When you find a hole in the whole, then there is a problem. When you find a hole in the whole, there is a problem. You want to always fill up that gap. When you look at the world and when you definitely transact with the world, my God, you all the time feel that you are hollow, really. In terms of knowledge, in terms of anything. Anything means anything. Anything. Human mind can think of the problems which are really from nowhere. He finds a certain problem in himself. Some small issue of emotion, small issue, any small thing. Egocentric problem, this problem, that problem. Guilt, hurt, continues. He finds himself lacking, wanting me all the time. There is no other solution other than to understand I am whole. I really don't need anything. There is no other solution for the human life. And those who are in search of those solutions outside in the world to fill up this gap, to fill up this hole in the whole, well, they have not really achieved that. Whole is whole. Well, you are limitless, either you understand it. It may be a reality for you, or it may be just imagination. But a limited being can never become limitless. Because the distance between a limited and limitless is limitless. And therefore there is no way one can become limitless in the future. Either the limitlessness centered on I is just a imagination, or the limitlessness is a reality which I do not know. And therefore the solution is this only. Just give up an identification with what is limited. Limited is going to be limited. But you are limitless in spite of limited things, bodies, etc. You are limitless in spite of that. In fact, those limited things are just adjuncts, incidental attributes of you, mithya. All names and forms. That's a reality. Therefore, then there is no dukkham, dukkha nivrutti. There is no need of sukha prapti also. Dukkha nivrutti and sukha prapti is samsara. All the time working. All the time working for dukkha nivrutti, sukha prapti. This fellow, who is ignorant. What is his, essence of his life? Dukkha nivrutti, sukha prapti. Dukkha nivrutti, sukha prapti. Therefore, he gives here example, ayathavasthu rajju sarpadi jnanam. Misconception of a snake, etc. Ayathavasthu means a reality. Ayathavasthu, which is not reality. Mithya. And here, interesting thing is, ayathavasthu you should not connect with the rajju sarpadi. Ayathavasthu jnanam. And therefore, ayathavasthu jnanam is this mithya jnanam. Which mithya jnanam? Rajju sarpadi. So sarpadi mithya jnanam or rajju sarpadi mithya jnanam, that is what? That's a hetu for what? Palayanam, running away. That's how he says palayate. Ayatavastu sarpadi jnanam hetuhu palayate or palayane. Well, in the case for going away, well, it is running away. This is a hetu. So, two types of, running away. So, here it indicates two types of things, nivrutti and pravrutti. Sadhanam for running, sadhanam for running towards, well, ultimately, or let's say sadhanam for dukkha nivrutti. Once you say it is a snake, etc. So, well, will be there as long as misconception is that the snake is real. Ayatavastu, actually, if you don't know, then you palayani, that you run away from that. Rajujnane sati, well, once you gain a Rajujnanam, consequently, what happens? Ahi dvastau. Ahi means again sarpa. So he is using another word because sarpa is used in the first line. So ahi dvastau, when this sarpa brahma, di means here brahma, di means actually buddhi, cognition also, but the word is sometimes, at many places, di is used for the brahma. So ahi means sarpa brahma, dvastau, then nasha. Dvastau is a seventh case. Dvasti actually is a word. Dvasti means nasha. But here dvastau, sati saptami, locative absolute. When this sarpa brahman goes away and Rajujnana when takes place, then not only he stops running, while he feels ashamed also. Krutamapi anushochati. It's amazing. So not only he stops running, he feels ashamed also that he ran so much. for Mithya Sarpa, he ran so much. He won't feel proud that he has done so much of running. And so, Krutamapi, whatever sadhanam he has done from going away from this Sarpa, etc., Anushochati, he feels bad about it. Every jnani feels ashamed, really speaking. And therefore, there is no, that is how Pujya Swami says, no, once you are no more ignorant of yourself, you never claim that I am Brahmagnani. If you say I am Brahmagnani, that's another issue. The Ahankara is very intact. Earlier he was saying, I was knowing this and that. Now he says, I know Brahman. So that Ahankara is still very much there. So in fact, Anushochati, he feels bad that how much he ran here and there. This pravrutti, nivrutti, all this. So, and there was no problem at all. Well, but still I ran here and there. So definitely once person works on Anujvara, well, then he finds that there is no issue. One should not work on Jvara. After Anujvara is gone, you come back to Jvara Nivrutti. That is possible. It's possible. After Anujvara is gone, one can come back to Jvara Nivrutti. Can work for Jvara Nivrutti. Here and there, little bit. And that's how Jnanis may work for a Jvara Nivrutti. Jvara of what? But his own body, Jvara is again, he wants, disidentifying again, he will. No. Jvaras of others. He starts working. Lokasangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. Tvam arhasi. You deserve to really work for Lokasangraha. People are suffering. He starts working. Every Jnani works to remove the Jvara of others. He is free from Anujvara. His body is undergoing Jvara. But still he is working for others' removal of Jvara. Maybe even for Anujvara also. He may teach or etc. That also is there. Or else he may work for certain emotional issues of the others. Well, he works. Give some kind of some kind of a what? Some lotion or something on that. Oh, beta, you don't have any problem, etc., etc. So he may work for others also, for removing the Jvara. So, Saktah Karmani Avidvamsaha Kuryat. What is that? Saktah Karmani Avidvamsaha Kuryat Vidvan Tatha Sakta, etc. Chikirshur Lokasangram, etc. So, Grihastha Jnanis well also may continue to solve the problem in a family also. But he will be free from